And the dynamic between Ben Schwartz and Billy Crystal is extraordinary. How did you manage to build this dynamic in set?
Luck. You know,
I just feel like I would have my life figured out by now.
I'm sorry.
Are you pissing in the sink?
No.
But last time, don't bother the customer.
He pissed in the sink.
I didn't piss in the sink.
I saw it.
He literally just did it. I went apple picking the other day. Got myself an iPad. How you doing?
Hi, Matt. How are you?
very good. How are you doing?
I'm great. First of all, congratulations on your movie. I loved it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so, it has such a heart, and I don't know, I really connected to the story. And my first question for you is, this is your first feature film, and how did you come across to this movie?
So I'd worked with a producer many years ago who sent me the script and read it. And if you're going to direct a movie, it's going to be 2+ years of your life. So for me, at least, you really have to care about it. And I read it, and I wanted to call him, right away. I didn't want to wait till morning. I just felt the blend of humor and pathos was there. I thought the characters were dynamic, fully realized, really interesting people. And it just felt like a story that the sort of notion of the nature of regret really resonates with me. And so it really felt like a story I needed to tell.
Wow, awesome. And so, do you relate to the movie on a personal level?
Certainly. I mean, I think for me, if I can't find a personal connection into the film, I have no business directing it. And so for me, this, yes, it's, I hope funny. I think there are lots of really, comedic moments in it, but the fact that it was not just about that, the fact that it was also about something else really resonated with me.
That's great. And it's an indie picture, but it's also very relatable to all sorts of audience. How do you feel people can relate to the movie, especially considering this pandemic scenario?
Yeah, I think certainly I wasn't made during the pandemic or with the pandemic in mind, but I think lots of people are struggling with, do I need to move home with my parents? How does my reality change? And people are reassessing relationships and reassessing what's important. I think this has done that for all of us. And hopefully people are reassessing, the notion of failure and reassessing how they can, not to be too cliche, but how they can really live their best lives, not the lives that other people think they should be living.
It's so interesting because when you made the movie, there was no such thing as pandemic and COVID-19. So it was pre this era, but at the same time, it has such a perfect timing to this moment, right? So do you believe that this movie can somehow help people reconnect with their families and old friends?
I certainly hope so. I mean, it's been one of obviously the pandemic's been horrific for so many people. One of the silver linings for me has been I really reconnect, because of Zoom, I've really reconnected with friendships that are, my friends are all spread out over the country and in other countries, and being able to reconnect and really kind of value those relationships has been special. And it's been something I've been personally, I've just felt fortunate about. And if this film gives people a little bit of a break from our reality right now, which I think we all need, and if this film inspires people to reconnect, so much the better.
Oh, that's great. And we are seeing nowadays more and more indie films from film festivals coming to the mass media through TV channels such as TNT. Do you believe that through platforms such as TNT, these kind of indie movies can reach out to a general audience? Because usually those movies tend to be more in the film festival scenario, which is a specific kind of audience. And when it goes to a big channel like TNT, you can reach all sorts of audience. You can reach out my parents, you can reach out my grandparents. So it's a whole other thing, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, look, I think as a filmmaker, you create art that you hope people see. And I think that being able to work with TNT and get it seen, widely is I feel so fortunate because I do think that when people are aware of the film and they see it, be it, your parents or my grandparents or whoever, my cousin, whoever it is, that knowing that the content is there, knowing that it exists, and letting it have a life. And I think the performances in it are really special. And I think that being able to create awareness of it on a larger scale than, your sort of traditional film festival circuit is something that's really special for me and special for everybody involved in the film.
That's awesome. And the dynamic between Ben Schwartz and Billy Crystal is extraordinary. How did you manage to build this dynamic in set?
Luck. I try and always create a safe space for actors to do their best work. And it's not a glamorous set by any means, but a place where, they can not be afraid to fail because they know they're with people they can trust. And they know that, I'm not going to move on from a scene until I've got the performances I need. In terms of their chemistry, we brought Billy on board first. So then we were able to think about, who would pair well with him. They didn't know each other. And they became incredibly dear friends on and off screen. And that's the sort of thing that you can't bottle, you can't direct chemistry, right? It either exists or it doesn't. And so that's, you'd rather be lucky than good. And I certainly got lucky there.
That's great. And all the characters in the movie are flawed, especially Marty. But at the same time, all of them are extremely likable. We don't see that perspective, black and white. We have like villains and we have heroes. All of them have their flaws, but at the same time, you can relate to them, to every single one of them. And why did you decide to create these characters they're not just black and they're not just white? They're all these shades of gray.
I think that's people, right? I mean, I think that people with whom I've had really bad experiences, I know that they're not monsters. They're just people with whom I disagreed or what have you. And I think that that duality and that sort of inner duality is something that for me, the style of film I like to make is one that, it doesn't have to be our world, but that at least reflects our world. And so the notion that, it's why some of the scenes, between Marty and his son were so important, so that you see the other side of that coin, that it's not just the sort of jovial, fun guy at the bar. It's why, the relationship between Ben's character and Becky, Eloise's Mumford's character, that getting the nuance there, getting that, getting the complexity of it, and getting that you can do bad things and not be a bad person. And it's one of the reasons that Ben's casting was so vitally important is we've got to be rooting for Scott. We've got to want Scott to succeed. And in the hands of a different or lesser actor, it would have been really hard to capture that. And so that's, a lot of thought went into the casting of Ben specifically for that reason.
And also the supporting characters, all of them, they have their own arcs. How did you manage to create so many arcs in such a movie that it has such a good flow? The movie just flows in such a light way, and it's not a heavy movie, and it has the perfect timing. But at the same time, all of the arcs has its own, momentum in the picture. How did you manage to create all of that?
Thank you, because it's something that was really important to me. Is so many of Billy and Ben's scenes are not with each other. They're with Meg and Ruiz. They're with Marty's son. They're et cetera, with his parents. And so I think that particularly in independent films, sometimes you can get one great part, and then the rest of the movie falls, no pun intended, falls apart. Because you don't have those fully fleshed out supporting characters, and then you don't get the actors because the parts don't merit it. And so, I think there's a really interesting movie you could make about Becky stuck in a loveless marriage. I think there's a really interesting movie you could make about Ruiz trying to become a cop. And so the fact that they all had their own, and those aren't the stories we're telling here, but the fact that they all had these sort of fully realized, they were fully realized people. And that let us then get amazing actors, David Castaneda, Grace Gummer, the parents, Deborah Monk and Kevin Dunn, who are actors I've wanted to work with forever. And then once you're, and it feeds itself, right? Because we're able to get that caliber of actor, because they're interesting parts, even though they maybe are, not the largest parts in the film, then those actors lend the characters all this depth and nuance that, you know, that just informs what's on the page.
It's true. And my last question is, what do you think is the biggest lesson the audience can take from the movie?
You know, if whatever an audience takes from a movie, I'm happy, because that means they're paying attention. But you know, for me personally, so I'll speak for myself personally. It's this notion that you know, you learn more from failures than success, and that it doesn't, as you know, I think you mentioned it about the characters, it doesn't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be black and white, and that sort of what you think makes you happy can change and evolve, and that's okay, and that it's regret is real. Marty says it, but it can be real and not crippling. And you can have things you wish had been different, but they can't be, because unless you know, build a time machine. So once you've made a choice, all you can do is learn from it and move on. And that's way easier said than done. But if that sort of sparks people at all, I'll be, you know, very pleased.
You're telling jokes for pocket change. You're better than that.
Let me tell you something about life. Everybody moves at their own speed.
Scott, what happened to us?
I got scared. And when I get scared, I run away.
Lightning rarely strikes twice, but if you keep your eyes open, it can strike again.
What does that even mean?
Listen, the guys I like the best are the guys who are real. The real guys are the ones that you remember.